Welcome to the demo for vendor validation for Business Central. Once you're ready and you have everything installed, the first thing you need to do to activate this vendor validation is go to the user setup. And here you can actually turn on and off vendor validation for your specific users. This needs to be done on a per company and per user basis. So click the check mark to turn it on and you're set to go. Next step is to go to the vendor validation setup, which is where you will actually configure the individual providers. So from here, it comes in a default state as turned off. So each of these will come turned off, and you must then turn them on just by clicking the toggle. When they're highlighted in blue, they're turned on. They each have their own individual configurations. For tin match, you can place a vendor on hold, and so you can establish when you would place a vendor on hold. That's never, that would be on errors only or on a warning or an error. And you can do the same for each of these. With the OFAC, you can also set the match degree, which is how closely it matches with a result on the OFAC sanctions list. And then for the address validation, you can set an address if you want to establish a default address for your validations. So we'll have all of these on. Tin match is set for errors, OFAC is set for warnings and errors, and we'll have address validator set as never, just for this example. Set them as however you need for your testing purposes. So the next step, once you have that configured, is you can go to your vendors and select a vendor. In this case, we'll do First Up Consultants. And if you scroll to the bottom, you'll see the Mekorma settings. And then you've got the Mekorma validation exclusions, which we have just integrated into the vendor card. And here you can choose to exclude an individual provider for each vendor. So when they're not highlighted, it means that they are on and they're active. So right now, all three validations are being run for First Up Consultants. If you click to turn one on, it will then block. So right now we're blocking tin matching with this being turned on. So we'll turn that off for the purposes of this demo. And as you can see, we made changes down here to a field. And so we got this pop-up up here, this address, vendor address tax identification number has been modified. Do you want to run vendor validation? So anytime any of the fields that are affected in here are modified, this alert pops up. And so let's say you don't want to run it. You can exit the card and you'll be alerted once more. Just, do you want to run it? You can click yes, and that'll leave you in the window. If you click no, you'll exit. So let's click yes. And now it runs the service. And this is one of the couple of different ways that it runs. So as you see, validation is run, and we have a validation status of warning. And it's a warning. It's not blocking payments because that's not the way it's been configured. But if it were to be an error, it would block payment here. And then in the future, if a vendor gets an OK status, you then manually come in and you change it to blank. Other ways to validate your vendor are you can click the vendor button here and then click validate vendor. It'll run the same validation. As you can see, it's validated. Validation is complete. And then if you want to look at your history, you can look at a validation history. And here you see the recent validations we've run, TIN, OFAC, and address. We've received warnings for TIN and a warning for address. And the OFAC was okay. So there is your basic vendor validation for an individual vendor. One thing, if users in the user setup don't have vendor validation activated, they can still see this, but this will be blocked, but they can still view the validation history. And similarly down here, this section will be blocked from editing, but it'll still be visible. So then the next step, or the next validation, would be we can go into the vendor validation page here. And this is our bulk validation section. So you can select a range of vendors. So we will select the whole range here. And they pull up here. And if you want to skip them, you can click Edit List. You can skip any vendor you want. And we'll skip First Up Consultants, and then click Validate. And again, it's the same as with individual validation. It's going to communicate with the server. It's transmitting the data and tells you which, who is currently being validated. And here you have it. You've got the results. And so as you see, First Up Consultants has nothing in here because we skipped them. And then Graphic Design Institute, they also have no results. And that's because I have them excluded from all three providers. So their results are going to mirror those of a skipped vendor. And so then if you select a vendor with results, you get your high level results right here. But then if you highlight that vendor down in vendor matching details, you'll see further information about what was validated, the information there. You see here, we've got 2 address validations. That's because there's multiple addresses attached with this vendor. So it'll review all of the addresses attached. And so you might see multiple as you do now. And that is it for this quick demo.